When I was last in Hong Kong, I picked up this book, which is called Hong Kong Slang, the classic, the comical, and plenty of rude ones too. And it really got me thinking about the use of slang in a language. Now, there is a lot of what I would say very colorful expressions in this little book. It's really packed with some really quite graphic language, and anybody that knows Cantonese slang will be well aware of how graphic it can be. Having lived in Hong Kong for 22 years, my children are half Chinese. I'm fully aware of Cantonese slang anyway. But having read this book again, I got thinking really about the use of slang in a language, not just in Cantonese, in any language at all, particularly in English. And I think there are two sides to it, very much two sides to it. There is the good and there is the bad. And when you talk about slang, you're also talking about the use of idiomatic expressions as well. And I remember when I was in Hong Kong some years ago, there was this road show. I'm sure some of you can remember it. There was this road show that used to run on the buses in Hong Kong. On the top floor, there was this little TV screen, and there was something called the road show, which was like this English language learning program that used to run continuously on the bus. And for many months, maybe even many years, it used to teach English idioms. And one of the idioms that it used to teach was, if it's very heavy rain, it's raining cats and dogs. It's raining cats and dogs. And I remember at the time in Hong Kong, because I was a native speaker, many people who knew me would, in a working situation, they would want to practice their English with me. And they would come up to me literally sometimes in the street, in the coffee shop, certainly in a working environment. And obviously, if it wasn't raining, they wouldn't do this. But if it was raining, they would, without fail, they would come up to me and say, "It's raining cats and dogs. It's raining cats and dogs. It's raining cats and dogs." And one person after another would use this expression with me. And it got to the point whereby I thought, goodness me, if one more person says this to me, my head will literally explode. And the problem with slang, idiomatic expressions is there is a right time and a wrong time to use them. And also they come into fashion and they go out of fashion as well. So unless you are fully au fait with a culture, you don't necessarily know whether an idiomatic expression is appropriate or not. And with that in mind, I think it's important, maybe, especially when you're just learning a language, when you're maybe not particularly confident in a language, when you're at the intermediate stage in a language, be very careful about the use of idiomatic expressions. I think once you're moving up into the advanced bracket, that is slightly different. So I would recommend exercising a degree of caution when it comes to using idiomatic expressions. Certainly, when it comes to using slang language like this, I would be incredibly cautious because used with the wrong people, language like this can come across as being incredibly offensive. Yes, it is funny and amusing for some. I find a lot of this language quite amusing personally, but you don't necessarily know the background of the person that you're talking to. Therefore, it is always best, particularly when it comes to the use of English, to keep it on a formal level, especially in business. Which brings me on to my next point, business. Now, it's not all bad news for the use of slang, for the use of idiomatic expressions. For me, there was a good side to it as well. And I found in business that there were many occasions when you were maybe having a cup of coffee with a customer, with a prospect. And obviously, one of the things that is difficult when you are doing business for the first time with somebody or trying to do business with somebody for the first time is, what do you talk about? Now, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's not ridiculous at all. Obviously, we have products and services that we're trying to sell. But if we're just talking about our products and services, conversations can get incredibly boring. So the small talk in business is absolutely critical. If you can relate to somebody on a personal level, then you usually find, I always used to find this, the business would then follow. So long as you can get the pricing right and you can get your offer right and you can solve the problem, the customer's problems, that really goes without saying. But behind all of that is the relationship. So, what do you talk about? And yes, there are a lot of topics that you can talk about. Obviously, there's the weather. There is hobbies. There are where you've been on holiday. There are all sorts of little subjects like this that you can, in fact, talk about. And I always used to find one topic which people were absolutely fascinated to talk about was idioms. And the reason why that is because idioms cross over cultural boundaries. So, like, if we have an idiom or a slang use of language in English, then more often than not, there would be something similar, maybe not exactly the same, in Cantonese or Italian or French or American, if I can say American, Australian, if I can say Australian, we're all using the English language. And as soon as we got talking about idioms, people would always find it incredibly funny to talk about, British use of idioms or British slang, Cockney rhyming slang, for example, in London. And from my own perspective, I always used to find it incredibly interesting finding out about the idioms that were used in other countries as well. And more often than not, the meaning behind the idioms has some form of deeply rooted cultural significance, which allows you then to get into a much deeper conversation or more meaningful conversation, I should say, about another person's culture. So, this for me is one of the good points of slang and idioms and the use of idioms. So, if you're ever in Hong Kong at some point in the future and you find yourself in the GOD store and you don't mind a little bit of what we should say graphic sensitive language, then I would recommend you pick up this book and have a good read. It'll certainly put a smile on your face, and smiling is something we can all do a lot more of. So thank you for listening to me, and happy reading.